What's up, guys? Welcome back for another episode. We got to talk about this story coming out of Baltimore, brought to us by Project Baltimore. But before we get into the story, let's just go ahead and state what we already know. We know that in certain inner cities, the public school system is broken and terrible. We know that. We know that a lot of inner city kids fail at public school institutions. We know this. And we know that there is enough blame to go around to point at the parent and the school system as the culprits of the child's failure, as well as we know that it's also the children who are responsible for their own failure also. Okay, now that we got all of that out the way, we got to look at this story out of Baltimore. State delegates calls for firings as 41% of Baltimore high schoolers earn below a 1.0 GPA. Why are we surprised? This is not new news. I don't know why these politicians are acting surprised now. The school system in Baltimore has been a wreck for years, but now that Project Baltimore puts it out there, now everybody wants to respond as if this is new news. This is old news. But I want to just make my case like this. Most of the blame goes on the parents. Most of the blame goes on the caretakers. When you have a parent and a school system working together to ensure a child's future, you have to say this, in my opinion. Most of the child's prosperity is going to come out of what they learn at home. Therefore, what I believe is 65% of the responsibility has to be on the shoulders of the parents, and the other 35% has to be on the school system. And I just use that number to illustrate this. The parents should receive most of the blame for what's going on in Baltimore, but the politicians aren't going to say that. But before I bring your attention to an old story, make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And let me just make my case like this. All right. There was an old story back in March where a Baltimore student was thinking he was about to graduate. And then he goes from 12th grade back to 9th grade. Now, the story in and of itself is shocking. But what I want you guys to observe is the fact that the mother spent the entire time blaming the school system and not once took responsibility for the failure of her student, of her child. And remember, this is, if she is an example of the common mother, the common dynamic that these students experience, then what else are we going to expect other than failure? Take a look at this.
We're not letting none of this get the best of us. All right? Be strong, son. We got this.
He's stressed, and I am too. Like, I told him I probably will start crying. Like, my son is, I don't know what to do for him.
This coming June is when Tiffany France thought her son would receive his diploma.
And I'm just trying to fight. He like, Mom, what was all this for? What did I do this for? Like, don't he get a chance? Do he get a chance?
But after 4 years of high school, this mom just learned her 17-year-old has to start over.
All right, now take a look at this, because this is very telling. She has been given the knowledge that her son is going to go from 12th grade to 9th grade. She's been given the knowledge that he skipped hundreds of days of school, skipped and was late over hundreds of days of school. And yet, after she receives this knowledge, this young man is sitting at home with a TV mounted, playing a video game, earpods in, just casually, wasting the afternoon. And then they have the audacity to say, what did we do all this for? Son, you didn't do anything. But guys, remember, this is part of the problem in Baltimore. The parents don't want to take responsibility. Who is at home telling this young man to do his homework? Who is at home telling this young man to strive for excellent grades at school? Who is at home to ensure that this boy is doing what he has to do to move on to the next level? The answer is no one.
He's been moved back to 9th grade.
Why would he do 3 more years in school? He didn't fail. The school failed him. The school failed at their job. They failed. That's the problem here.
Failed too.
They failed. He didn't deserve that.
France's son attends Augusta Fells Savage Institute of Visual Arts in West Baltimore. His transcripts show in 4 years, he has passed just 3 classes, earning 2.5 credits, which places him in 9th grade. But France says she didn't know that until February. She has 3 children and works 3 jobs.
All right, so right there is the excuses. And that's why we're not going to get anywhere, because politicians and the news are going to talk about she has 3 jobs and 3 kids. Okay, your first and foremost job is to make sure your children are doing what they have to do. And okay, it is the top responsibility of the parent to be aware of what the child is doing. So don't give me all this 3 jobs, 3 kids. No, that's your number one responsibility, is the success of your kid.
She thought her oldest son was doing well because even though he failed most of his classes, he was being promoted. His transcripts show he failed Spanish 1 and Algebra 1, but was promoted to Spanish 2 and Algebra 2. He also failed English 2, but was passed on to English 3.
I'm just assuming that if you are passing, that you have the proper things, to go to the next grade.
And that's the problem. She spent years assuming and not years being a diligent parent.
The right grades, you have the right credits.
As we dig deeper into her son's records, we can see in his first 3 years at Augusta Fells, he failed 22 classes and was late or absent 272 times.
So he was late or absent 272 times. So I'm going to stop that right there, because you guys understand at this point that the mother in that scenario is the one to blame for the failure of her son. And then we tie this back into the recent findings of Project Baltimore, which we shouldn't be surprised about. And okay, if you want to point the finger at some of these lawmakers, if you want to point the finger at some of these people, then I guess we can do that. But we also have to keep it real and say, well, what about the parents' responsibility in ensuring that the child and students are prospering?
This is a real crisis, a crisis that needs outside of the box thinking. That's horrible. That is terrible.
WBAL radio talk show host Clarence Mitchell and Baltimore County Delegate Nino Mangione are reacting to a Project Baltimore investigation that found in the first 3 quarters of this school year, 41% of all Baltimore City high school students earned below a 1.0 grade point average. That's less than a D average.
What are you doing to prepare them for life? You're not.
We have an obligation to prepare and protect these students, to give them the best chance in the future. And when there's not even outrage amongst their own leaders, how can you expect there to ever be change?
In the second quarter of the 2019-2020 school year, before COVID hit, 24% of high school students earned below a 1 GPA. With that number now at 41%, city schools explained to Project Baltimore in a statement on Monday, the COVID-19 pandemic created significant disruptions to student learning. Starting this summer and beyond, City Schools is providing students with a variety of opportunities to acquire the unfinished learning they lost.
So I wonder how much of that unfinished learning they lost is actually going to be recaptured with these so-called opportunities, because you could put program after program into these communities. But if the parents, like I just showed you, are not going to ensure that the students show up, then it's really a waste of time. It's really a waste of time. It's about seizing the opportunity. It's about being a good student in the moment so you don't have to cry about being a senior going back to a freshman. It's about the opportunity that's at your doorstep now, not making up credits after the fact.
When someone commits an act, you have to hold them accountable.
Fox 45 News reached out to Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott for his reaction concerning nearly half the high school students in his city earning less than a D average this year. His press person responded, "Due to a tight schedule today, he will likely not
That's
have
hilarious.
time.
When we invest in young people, we're investing in the future of our city.
But Project Baltimore was able to catch up with Baltimore City Council member John Bullock, a member of the Education Committee. Tuesday morning, he attended this event announcing a $1 million investment in city youth programs.
Do you find that type of student success or lack of success acceptable?
At the event, we asked Councilman Bullock about Project Baltimore's report.
You know, one of the realities we also deal with even in this past year with the pandemic is that a lot of young people struggle, a lot of families struggle. So on one hand, we're talking about, you know, this unique circumstance where a lot of young people have not really been able to be academically successful given some of the challenges they're facing. But from an overall perspective, to look at really the investments in not only recreation and education, but also family support. We definitely want to see our young people succeed to be able to get opportunities for further education and career development. Thank you.
I know it's a challenging issue, but the fact is we should look at these some of these leaders in the administration and think, let's evaluate and let's start firing people because this can't go on. This cannot go on. People need to lose their jobs for this.
Why don't you watch where the story goes from Project Baltimore? Because I think we're only at the surface. 41% of Baltimore high school students under 1.0.
That's absurd. Yeah, and guys, I would agree that after after we go ahead and investigate, after we look at what's going on with the people in charge, if they are neglecting their responsibility, then okay, fire them. But to say that the failure of the students is because of the superintendent, the principals, the teachers, and all these other people, you're grossly misunderstanding. You're grossly not acknowledging that there is a bigger force at play, and it's that these kids are a product of what they learn at home. Like we just saw, the young man was getting demoted from senior to freshman. What is he doing after he comes to that knowledge? He says, oh, boo-hoo me, and then he turns on NBA 2K21 to his TV mounted up on his wall. Okay, so is that the superintendent, principal's, teacher's fault that this kid skips 272 days a year? And it's not a matter of funding. It's not a matter of we need better teachers necessarily. It could be that, but then to just throw that out there as if, funding is the culprit culprit of this, it's really short-sighted. When you guys look at the facts around this matter right here, you have to look at Baltimore City Public Schools promoted students with 0.13 GPA while spending a $1.4 billion budget. Now, the money to me doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, these people are responsible for a humongous operation. So, the chief executive officer making $333,000, I have no problem with that as long as they're doing their job. But to look at all of this, the top 10 Baltimore City Public Schools employees, like I said, chief executive officer, 300,000, over 300, chief of schools, 198,000, chief of staff, 190,000, chief communications, 187,000. Yes, these people are getting paid a lot, but just because they're getting paid a lot doesn't mean they are neglecting their job necessarily. Now, like I've already stated, if you go ahead and you find that this lady right here, Sonia Santelis, is not doing her job and just collecting paychecks, then fire her. If you figure out that Teresa Jones is not doing her job, then fire her. But to blame all of the failure on the Baltimore City Public School employees is a gross misstep, because what I believe is that these kids are a product of what their home life is. So I'll wrap it up like this. There's a lot of blame to go around. Okay, we could sit here and point fingers all day, but the more balanced approach is to address this problem on both fronts. The public school system has to be evaluated and then purged of the employees that are simply not committed to student success. If they're not committed to student success, if they are simply going through the motions and collecting a paycheck, then they need to be uprooted, and then you need to put somebody else in, making that same salary. I don't think these people should be making less money. The operation of a school system being ran is a big one, worth that much money. All right. But then also we have to address the parental failure. And there has to be some sort of outreach to say, hey, mom, dad, caretaker, whoever it is at home, you guys have to understand that your responsibility in the success of your student is really a big thing you need to focus on. And here is what you need to focus on. You need to be asking your student, where is your report card? You need to be asking your student, where is your progress report? You need to be asking your student, why are you not doing homework? Or where is your homework? Or what can you be studying? Or where are you struggling? Or pick up the phone and call the school, call the teachers. How is so-and-so doing? The teachers and the parents have to have a better relationship, because it seems there is none. So guys, this story to me, I'm not surprised. And I believe there's enough blame to go around, as I think I've made my point very clear. Let me know what you guys think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Who is to blame more? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And if you guys want to support the channel, you could find me on Patreon, PayPal, and Cash App. Links will be in the description below. Hit that like button one last time, guys. As always, God bless. Peace.